Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Jason and I'm your watch guy today. Now before we get into this video, if you're new around here, please go straight down there and hit that subscribe button. I release 3 watch videos a week, and if you believe the comment section, they're alright. So hit that button for me. Now that's done. As you've probably seen in the thumbnail and the title, this is my review on the Oris Aquis Date. Now if you've seen the unboxing, then you'll know that this is one of my grail watches. Now, if you haven't seen the unboxing, go up there and watch that and then come back. Or watch this and then go back. Whatever way you want to do it. Now, for anyone that isn't familiar with Oris, they have been making watches out of Holstein, Germany since 1904. They make really high quality watches with Swiss movements, and they actually are one of the only still independent watchmakers around, which speaks for itself really when you consider the amount of companies that are under other umbrella companies nowadays. This watch was sent in by one of my subscribers. His name's Chris and he's an absolute gent. I mean, he sent me a £1,600 watch so I could review it for all you guys out there. So again, Chris, I've already said it, but thank you so much for that. Now, without further ado, let's turn this camera around and get into this review. Now this is Chris's Oris Aquis Date. It is the green variant, which I think is, if you're going to pick one of these up, it's the one that you just have to get. It is the nicest dial that you will see, matched with the most gorgeous bezel. I think it's the one to go for. Now on the official websites, these come in at around £1,600. If you shop around a little bit, I've heard of them being sold for between £1,200 and £1,300. Definitely, if you're going to pick one up, talk to a dealer and try and get a decent deal on one. Now this is the 43.5mm variant. This does come also in a 39.5mm variant, which will fit smaller wrist sizes. Now this 43.5mm comes from the bezel size. The bezel actually protrudes and this case tapers to around 42mm, which I think is why this watch feels so nice on wrist and so wearable, as well as a couple of other features that Oris have used throughout this watch. It is 13mm thick. Lug to lug, it is 49.5mm. Now these lugs are integrated lugs, so it's pretty hard for me to give you a measure, but lugs here are 26mm. Lug fitting is 12mm. So as I mentioned in the intro, Oris use Swiss movements in their watches. This one is packed with the Oris 733 movement, which is a Sellita SW200-1 with a nice red rotor. And no matter how much of a fan of that rotor I am, pretty much the only difference to a Sellita SW200. It has 38 hours of power reserve and it is a 28,800 beat movement. It has a lovely sweeping motion on this one. Very high standard feel to this movement. As I mentioned, this is the green variant. It was released in 2018, this variant. Again, definitely the one to go for. To me, this watch is a very rugged watch, but it also has a really elegant feel to the casing. It's very substantially built. It is a fully stainless steel case and it does have a mixture of finishes. Now to the sides here you can see that it does have a brushed finish, as well as over here on the crown side. On the upper side of the lugs we have a nice high polish finish. Very high quality finishes throughout this watch, as you would expect from Oris. We have large screwed in crown guards with those Oris screws. The top side of these crown guards is a high polish just like the lugs. I love really large crown guards. They're a really nice feature on a dive watch, but they are also functional. They do protect this crown. This crown has really nice deep levels of grip. Very easy for you to get hold of. It is a screw down crown as you'd expect from a dive watch, especially one of this standard. As you can see, it is a signed crown. Again, something that you would expect from Oris. I do really like the large build factor on this side of the watch. It makes it feel like a dive watch to me, and it gives it that rugged feel, while we have this really nice, elegant, smooth opposing side. Now this bezel overhangs to the case. It has really nice deep levels of grip, and it's nice and easy to get a hold of, but it is a really well built bezel, this one. It's 120 click unidirectional bezel. I don't want to say that it's stiff because it's not. It's tight and well fitted to the watch. There's no real play in it, and that's exactly what you want from a dive watch. That's brilliant build quality for me. I have heard other reviews say that it's hard to get hold of. I don't know if that's just not the case with this particular Oris Aquis Date, but for me it's been nice and easy to manipulate this bezel, as you can see. It may just be a fact of you needing to use it a bit more to loosen it up a bit. Now we have a green ceramic bezel insert. It matches really nicely to this colour scheme of this watch. As you can see, we have white markings throughout the bezel. We have a 15-minute dive indicator, which is very legible, and really easy to see with this white and green colour scheme. The rest of the bezel is made up of Arabic markers at the 10-minute marks and batons at the 5-minute marks. This bezel is really well aligned, as you'd expect from Oris again. I know I keep saying that, but at this price range, you come to expect certain levels of quality and quality control. Up at the 12 o'clock here, we have a triangle marker with a circular pip in the center. That is a loomed pip, which is ideal for low light situations when you're using this bezel as a time marker. Now we do have a double dome sapphire crystal in this watch. It does fit in with the bezel really nicely. If I show you here, you can see that it's really smooth. It transitions very nicely. And it's not a massive dome. It is very noticeable when you actually have a good look at this watch, and it's a nice little feature for me. Moving to the rear of this casing, we do have a display case back. However, this is a mineral crystal. Not a massive factor for myself because obviously this is only the rear of the casing. Now that, as you can see, is the red rotor that you know Oris for very well. I really love that rotor. I don't know what it is because it's so simple, but I think it's just because I associate it with Oris. Now this is also a screw down case back. This watch is built to be a dive watch. As you would expect, it has a good level of water resistance. This casing, screw down crown and screw down case back provide the watch with a 300 meter water resistance, which gives this watch the seal of approval for divers, even desk divers like myself. Now as we move into this dial, it is the absolute feature piece of this watch. I know I said that the bezel is really nice and it really fits well with this colorway, but that is mostly owed to this dial. As you can see moving around it, that is the really lovely sunburst effect with this dial. It catches the light so well. Now I had this watch on wrist earlier in the week outside in the sun, and that dial just lights up. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's the absolute feature of this watch in my eyes. It may be simple, but that sunburst effect is just on another level. This dial has a really nice legible feel to it. As you can see, nice large white indicators throughout the dial. Now these are applied indices, they are also loomed. If you look closely, you can see that they have a really nice stainless steel border to either side of them. All the indices around this dial are the same size and same fit aside from the 12 o'clock indice. We have a white minute track that follows around the dial, which fits well with the colour scheme. Moving on from that, we also have the Oris logo printed in white at the 12 o'clock position. Just above the 6 o'clock position here, you see we have the Aquis logo, pressure resistant, 30 bar or 300 meters. Below that we have this date window at the 6 o'clock. Now you don't often see a date window at 6 o'clock, it's usually sat over at the 3 o'clock, sometimes the 4. Now I'll tell you why it's very nice to see this one down at the 6. It's because it keeps this dial in a very nice symmetrical feel, and you can see what Oris have done with this design. It feels really clean, precise and legible, and you know I love a legible watch. Following on from that, we have the Swiss made print either side of the 6 o'clock indice. The handset on this Oris is really nice and angular, which I think really follows on nicely from the casing. This is a loomed handset and it is finished by this Lollipop second hand. Now I will insert the loom shot just here for you. Now, in fear of repeating myself once again, as you would expect, it's a really good level of loom from this watch with that loom pip up at the 12 o'clock. Lasts very well and it's a good visible loom. Loved the loom on this one. As we move on from the dial and the casing, we move to this bracelet. Now the bracelet follows on from these integrated lugs. It's a really nice fitting bracelet. It's very comfortable on wrist. It does taper really nicely towards the clasp. This is a signed clasp with double pushers either side. It is a folding milled clasp. Aside from that, we also have a diver's extension on the other end. Obviously easier to fit over your wetsuit. We also have 3 levels of micro adjust. Now I do say that I'd like to see 4 levels on a watch, but 3 isn't exactly an issue. It did provide me with a really nice snug fit. I imagine it'd do the same for yourself. These are screw links, which I was happy to see. It makes it really easy to swap the links out and it gives a nice feel of quality in this bracelet. It is a very nice, solid feeling bracelet. Now this watch has a couple of feature pieces, doesn't it? It has that dial, which is absolutely stunning. The bezel is really nice, really reflective and looks brilliant against the dial. The crown and crown guards over this side make a real feature for themselves. But first thing that I noticed after the dial taking this out of its box, this inverted style of brushing on the bracelet. Usually you would see a brushed effect on either side and a polished feel to the center. But following in from the polished upper lugs on this watch, it has a polished outer side. That's not something that you see often, and I think it's really nice. It's a really nice change from Oris. Really does make this watch flow into one sort of design with many feature pieces. I think it really ties this watch in together really nicely. So let me get this watch on wrist and show you how nicely it looks even on my smaller sized wrists. Here we have it. This is the 43.5mm version of this Audience. As I said, the bottom of this case comes in at around 42mm. So it does feel like a normal 42mm watch, but it does have a nice overhanging, oversized looking bezel to it, which gives real presence on wrist. These integrated lugs and this bracelet just make this a really easy, comfortable wear. I think this is up there with the best of the watches that I've reviewed. It's brilliant, it really is. Now I'm sure you're expecting me to completely skip over the Moan section and just call this watch an absolute 100% winner. But that's not the case. I do like to be objective with my reviews and I do like to give you as much of a balanced argument as I possibly can. So with that being said, let me get into my Moan section. Now before I start this section, let me just say that it was so hard for me to pick up on any Moans for this watch. I actually messaged a friend of the channel, Dan, who's loaned us a couple of watches in the past as he has the same model. And I just asked him, is there anything that you'd pick up on that would be a Moan to you? I also asked the same question to Chris, the owner of the watch. And between myself, Dan and Chris, I didn't really come up with much, to be honest. But here we have what I did come up with. The movement isn't exactly setting the world on fire. It's a Sellita SW200 with a nice red rotor on it. The SW200, I believe I've heard from other people that you can pick up in watches around a £500–600 mark. But the movement does what it does and it does it well. So I don't know if that's as much as a Moan as I can really pick out. Another thing is that I've been told that Oris don't regulate these out of the factory, which is a bit strange for me. If you're making a watch at this type of price range and this type of quality, especially with the amount of quality that they pack into these watches, probably regulate your movements before you send them out. The watch is absolutely gorgeous. It catches the light so well. But another thing that it does really well is it catches fingerprints. I find myself cleaning this so often just to get any smudges off of it. Now, that being said, again, it's not exactly a massive Moan, is it? That's a lot of watches, especially when you have a ceramic bezel insert. Thirdly, and probably the only Moan that's a legitimate Moan in this review. The integrated lugs are great, but it does make this watch really hard to fit with another bracelet or another strap. You would have to probably buy one from Oris themselves, and I believe they're not exactly cheap. As well as that, you're going to need an Oris screwdriver, and again, I've heard they're not exactly cheap to pick up. That's due to these Oris screws in the lugs. Those screws, coupled with the integrated bracelet, pretty much mean that you're not going to be able to get a bracelet for this without spending a pretty penny. You're not going to be able to make it interchangeable, which when you take that into account, it is a really good job that they've made this bracelet so high quality, because it's probably the only one that you're going to wear with it. I think this watch is 100% worth the price tag. It's just got that absolutely overwhelming feel of quality to it. It's a gorgeous watch to look at. It catches the eye of any watch enthusiast and anyone that really sees it. I don't think I've shown this to anyone and they've said, no, don't really like it. Every single person that I've shown this to has loved it and they thought that it's absolutely stunning, just as I have. So guys, my time with this Oris Aquis Date is coming to a close, which is really sad because I've really loved having it in. But I'm sure Chris is really looking forward to getting it back on his wrist. Once again, thank you so much for sending this in to me, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure to have it on wrist. And it sort of convinced me to move this one from my eventual grails to my I need it as soon as possible grails. It's just absolutely stunning. The little watchmakers out of Holstein have done something special with this one, and it's absolutely captured my heart. Now guys, I have a lot of content coming out very soon. I'm producing about 3 videos a week, so I'll keep you very entertained. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and once you do, leave a comment in the comment section. I love chatting to you about the watches that I've got on the channel and ones that you want to see and ones that maybe you just want to chat about. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. I will see you in the next one.